Last week, ladies and gentlemen, as you heard on Tuesday when I did my Week 7 NFL recap, I went 12 and 3 in the money line. During the last 2 weeks in the money line, I've gone 25 and 4. Yes, you heard that right. I'm on a little bit of a heater. I also went 3 for 5 in bets last week. Right now, in the money line through 7 weeks, I am 69 and 38. Now we're at the point in the season where we get bye weeks. There's not obviously, 16 games in a week. So last year, during this time of the money line, there was one less game in the 2023 NFL season through 7 weeks because of the way the bye weeks worked. I am 69 and 37 a year ago. Again, this year, 69 and 38. So just one loss off the pace, as well as I am one best bet short of my pace from a year ago. I'm 20 for 35 this year in best bets. Last year for 7 weeks, I was 21 and 35. So I don't know if you guys have noticed a trend during the last 2 weeks in the National Football League, but it has occurred again in week 7, just like it did in week 6. I think it's one of the reasons why I'm on a heater here, and it's because if you add the better quarterback, the team more than likely is going to end up winning the game. So without further ado, let's get into my 2024 NFL Week 8 Moneyline picks and best bets. We're starting it off with a best bet. Thursday Night Football. The Minnesota Vikings just going off that brutal loss to the Detroit Lions at home in Minnesota. Now they go across the country to take on Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams, who barely beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, this will probably be a Minnesota Viking owned game in Los Angeles. But I've been saying it now for the past couple of weeks, folks. There is a reason why, with the Rams +3, they are my only underdog that I'm taking this week in best bets. Again, I will say it again. Teams that play the Detroit Lions this year struggle mightily the next week, and I don't care who you are. The Detroit Lions, they played the Lions, or excuse me, the LA Rams. They played the Detroit Lions in week 1. They got clobbered by Arizona in week 2. In week 2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers played the Lions. They got clobbered by Denver in week 3. Week 3, the Lions played Arizona. Guess what happened to Arizona in week 4? They got clobbered by Washington. Week 4, Detroit played Seattle. Guess what happened to Seattle in week 5? Oh yeah, they lost to the Giants. And then obviously week 6 we know Detroit played Dallas. Dallas obviously had their bye week, but you can see the trend there when it comes to the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals. Obviously Seattle. So the Rams, listen, I don't think they're healthy. They may struggle covering Justin Jefferson a little bit. TJ Hawkinson's questionable to play. He could be back for Minnesota. But I think McVay knows Kevin O'Connell. He's obviously a Sean McVay disciple. I think on a short week, home team here, even if it's not a home field advantage, does get the advantage. Traveling cross country. I think Minnesota played a very emotional game against the Lions. They get beat up physically. They're unable to stop the Rams. I like the Rams here as dogs, +3 to win and cover. Now, this game was flexed from the 4:25 window on CBS to the 1 o'clock window on CBS due to the impending Bears Commanders matchup. Philadelphia at Cincinnati. It's one of the weirdest games of the weekend because both these teams had Super Bowl aspirations coming into the season, and even, Cincinnati with 3 wins, they went back-to-back wins. Philadelphia with 4 wins, they're 4-2 because they had their early Week 5 bye. You can make a case both of these teams in their respective conferences are underrated and are looking to get back into the playoff picture in their own conferences. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, T. Higgins. Defensively, obviously, Trey Anderson, Sam Hubbard, Taylor Britt, Darius Slade, Jalen Carter. There are stars all over the field in this one. I'll take my favorite Philadelphia Eagles team to win here. I'm not gonna bet them. I'm not confident in this Eagles team to win this week. You know, the Eagles have never won in Cincinnati in my lifetime. I thought last week Philadelphia would smash for the Giants. I thought Cincinnati would smash for Cleveland. Both of them sort of happened. I'm very interested to see as my Philadelphia team defensively has dominated Cleveland. They dominated the Giants. They may be obviously two of the three worst teams in football this year. Uh, but I'm interested to see how my defense now goes up in competition here with Burrow and those receivers on the outside for Cincinnati. And quite frankly, for Cincinnati, they got to play the Giants and Browns as well, week 6 and week 7. Is their defense good enough to take on a Philadelphia team where Saquon Barkley's starting to get the run game going offensively? Jalen Hurts over the last 2 weeks has not turned the football over, and specifically Sunday against the Giants played his best game since probably the game week 12 a year ago against Buffalo. Baltimore at Cleveland was the Browns are starting Jameis Winston, and as I said on Tuesday, karma is it comes back to haunt you in the NFL. I don't think Browns fans were booing at the fact that Sean Watson got injured, or excuse me, I don't think they were cheering at the fact that Sean Watson got injured. I thought they were cheering at the fact that Deshaun Watson is no longer going to be their quarterback. DTR got banged up with a finger injury in the game. So this is Jameis Winston's show. I don't really know what to expect at all. We know Lamar Jackson has dominated the Browns in his past. The Ravens, after starting off 0-2 and everything not looking great, and then needing that win against Dallas, they have not lost since. You could have made an argument they should have lost to Cincinnati, but they ended up hanging on there and winning that game. The spread's 9.5. It's a divisional game, which factors in here for me. Divisional games, as we always say, you can throw the record out the window. The Browns, maybe they run the football, maybe they get a couple stops, maybe they keep the game close. Maybe Baltimore wins by 9 or 8 and the Browns cover. In the end, though, I like the Ravens to win, and it could be a smash spot. Okay, so the Jets have been an abject disaster since Robert Saleh has been fired. Obviously, I think we all know them. Jeff Ulbrich and that defense has really struggled. I am starting to question if Jeff Ulbrich can handle the responsibilities, as I said on Tuesday, of being a head coach and the defensive play caller at the same time. But they were just embarrassed in two back-to-back primetime games. They have another primetime game next week, Halloween, at home against the Houston Texans. Big game there. They need this win. Obviously, Buffalo Steelers games did not go their way. New England's not a very good football team. Gerard Mayo called them out last week for being soft, which Bill Belichick disagreed with. Not a great look for New England. Despite that, I do feel like that Drake May, despite what he's been given, has played well during his first two starts, even if New England has not looked great. Defensively, they're giving up, close to 40 points a game, give up 32 to Jacksonville, over 40 to Houston. And the Jets obviously killed them in week 3. Can they do it again? Yeah. Again, this could be a smash spot here, but I don't love this bet. I just don't trust the Jets. Maybe New England comes out. Again, it's a divisional game. Maybe they play with their hair on fire. Who knows? I like the Jets to win, but I'm not touching the game. Now, Arizona at Miami. This is a game that I will not touch. Miami is favored by 3. It is expected Tua Tagovailoa will return. But what holds me back here is even with Tua back, we saw it during the first 6 quarters of the Dolphin season. Excuse me. They did not lead until the final second. Week 1 against Jacksonville, they won at the buzzer, and then obviously Tua gets hurt against Buffalo. So Tua has not had a lead the entire season. Miami's been a weird team this year, obviously, with their quarterback situation. I said it, they've been weird since really November of last year. Mike McDaniel and crew. Mike McDaniel was a very smart team, but, smart guy, but it always felt like the Dolphins were sort of front running, especially early in the season. They were unable to do that this year. Despite that, the Browns are down Cincinnati is down. Indianapolis is down. Jacksonville is down. You could make a case if the Dolphins start getting on a roll here, that they could sneak into the AFC wildcard picture here, especially if they start winning some divisional games. And Arizona, they have a good week, they have a bad week, they have a good week, they have a bad week. Well, they had a good week against the Chargers. You know, Maybe they have a bad week here against Miami, but I don't know how Tua is going to play coming out that concussion. This is a toss-up game to me. I'll take Arizona on the road just because Kyler Murray has played more than Tua. I think it's going to take a couple weeks for Tua to get back into action. Okay, Indianapolis at Houston. Now, I don't know the line on this game. It's not available yet on FanDuel, or I would have probably taken it. My guess would be Texans favor by 3.5 to 4 points. I would like Houston in that scenario. Listen, they lost to Green Bay last week on a game-winning field goal, and while CJ Stroud has not looked great this year, this is a rematch from week one. A game where Joe Mixon dominated the front until he missed 3 games in a row. CJ Stroud was able to get Nico Collins going. Stephon Diggs scored in his debut here against Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson had that incredible throw off his back foot, 60 yards to Pierce. But as we talk about with Indianapolis, I thought this year was going to be a big year for Anthony Richardson. I thought, after essentially not playing last year and finishing a full game, Shane Steichen gets a full offseason to work with him. We know what Shane Steichen's done with the likes of Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert in the past, and it just has not come to be. And Anthony Richardson, you look up, he may have 10 completions in a game, but he may have thrown 25 passes, and yet he may still have over 200 yards. I mean, it's mind numbing. I don't get it. And so, for those reasons, I like Houston to win here. I like them to sweep, but again, not going to touch the game. So, my general rule generally is to stay away from big spreads, but this may be one of the biggest mismatches on paper I've seen in a long time. On Tuesday, my good buddy Jalen Sandvik, who's been on this show before, filled in for Josh Unger on championship rings. Jalen is a huge Detroit Lions fan. At the end of the show, I asked him what he thought about the Lions minus 10.5. I know it's a huge spread against Tennessee. He said just go ahead and take them. It's going to be a smash spot for them. I agree here. Tennessee can't stop the run. I think it's a big day for David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. Don't really care about Mason Rudolph starting. Tennessee obviously just traded away DeAndre Hopkins there, who really wasn't involved in the offense that much at all. They're selling out. I think the Lions here dominate. And again, it's a huge spread. Last year, I took a huge spread a couple times with San Francisco against the likes of the Giants, and they covered. It's a little bit risky, I admit it, but I like Detroit here. I think they poured on. I think this is like last week where Buffalo beat Tennessee 34-10. I don't think this contest is close. I'm taking Detroit minus the 10.5. I'm also taking Green Bay minus 4.5. As I said on Tuesday, they historically struggle in Jacksonville. At least Aaron Rodgers has in his career. But Jordan Love is getting red hot. Ever since the second half against the Minnesota Vikings week 4, where they were completely dominated in that first half, Minnesota got out to that huge lead. I'll be honest, Minnesota has not looked the same since. Green Bay has not looked the same since because Green Bay dominated the Rams. They dominated Arizona. And, here they are last week at home, big win against the Texans. So now they go to Jacksonville, and Jacksonville, they can't stop the pass. Drake May in New England was up 10-0 early in that game. If that defense was any good, they, might have been able to shut down Jacksonville. I'm not convinced that Trevor Lawrence is back all the way. I think obviously Bryant Thomas Jr. has been a great receiver for them. Uh, we'll see. Eventually they get ETN back. Big B's been a good running back for them. But I just think their defense is not going to be able to stop this Green Bay passing attack. With the development of Jaron Reed, Josh Jacobs has had a better year than I thought he would have there in Green Bay. Jordan Love is red hot. I think it's a bad matchup here for Jacksonville. And Doug Peterson may have survived that London trip. But in my opinion, he's not going to survive potentially for much longer. Okay. So this is an interesting game, right? Atlanta at Tampa. There is a reason why Atlanta is favored on the road in Tampa by 2.5. It's because Tampa Bay is not going to have Mike Evans. They're not going to have Chris Godwin. And I am inclined here to take Atlanta minus 2.5, the way I took them a couple of Thursdays ago at minus 1.5. The catch is in that game. Atlanta obviously only won in overtime. We know that was a huge shootout game. And I'm always worried about, and again, the situation for Tampa Bay has changed. Both receivers are down. I always worry about, teams playing each other 2 times in 3 weeks. Really hard to beat a team 2 times in 3 weeks when you're playing both, starters. It's not like a week 18 situation where you rest all the guys in that first game. And this game does mean more to Tampa than Atlanta. And the reason I say that is because obviously, if Atlanta wins, not only do they get the end-to-end tiebreaker against Tampa, where Tampa had to be a full game ahead of Atlanta for the NFC South lead, but then, Atlanta also beat them twice. So both of these teams are going off bad losses. Tampa, obviously, to Baltimore Monday night. Atlanta got humiliated by Seattle on Sunday in their house. I think Raheem Morris and crew, that Atlanta defense has not been good at all this year. Maybe they find the ability to shut down Tampa. Baker Mayfield has always had success against this Falcons team. I think that, William Cohen and that offense, just when we doubt Tampa, I wouldn't be surprised if even without the receivers, they find a way to get offense because Baker Mayfield just does Baker Mayfield things and, makes chicken shin into chicken salad some weeks. And some weeks he doesn't wake up feeling dangerous, and whatever the hell that means. Atlanta, I could totally see a smash spot here. I could also see Tampa Bay winning. I'll take Atlanta. Again, I'm not touching the game. Chargers at the Saints. Now, I like the Chargers here, even at 7.5. The hook is what got me. I think if it was at 7, I'd probably take the Chargers here. I'm just worried about the fact that obviously the Chargers have no wide receivers. Their arch rival Kansas City just got DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to be a huge ad there. Juju Smith-Schuster's obviously down. Rashid Rice is gone. So to go along with Worthy, now you have that big boundary X in Kansas City. With the Chargers, you're working with Trey Palmer, Land McContry, um, Josh Palmer, not Trey Palmer, Josh Palmer, Land McContry, Jalen Rager out of all people. And I just don't know that this team has the ability essentially because they run the football so much, because it is a Greg Roman leading offense to blow people out. I don't know the status of New Orleans' injury report. I know they're done, quite frankly, to be honest with you. They were a nice story at 2-0, but they turned out to be who we thought they were, which is not a very good football team. Marshawn Lattimore is even banged up. Spencer Rattler goes out there again. Don't think they're gonna have Chris Olave again. So it's a weird game. New Orleans got embarrassed back-to-back weeks. Generally, I like teams, as you know, that get embarrassed to bounce back. Again, it's another situation where I totally see a smash spot for the Chargers. I can see a situation though where the Chargers they dominate the whole game. They're up 10 points. Maybe the Saints get a late touchdown in garbage time and they backdoor cover this thing. So in my opinion, there's better bets on the board. Okay. This Kansas City Vegas game. So I just talked about it. DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, huge addition for Kansas City. Becoming that boundary X receiver. Andy Reid's gonna find a way to get him involved. Any prop bet out there, I'd 100% bet DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown in this game against Las Vegas. Antonio Pierce's team is so inconsistent, and we talked about this last week. It looked like they were going to be in complete meltdown mode after getting rid of Devontae Adams and Max Crosby pushing a coach, and Aiden O'Connell, Urchis, and Gardner Minshew has to come back in. Team's a mess. They're playing musical chairs at the quarterback position. But I think Antonio Pierce, he's talked about Mahomes' rules the whole offseason. These are not just division rivals, these are arch rivals. This is a Raider team that beat Kansas City on Christmas last year when Aiden O'Connell did not complete a pass after the first quarter. Yes, that happened. I think Vegas would love nothing more than to give Kansas City their first loss of the season. Probably going to play with their hair on fire. With that being said, they made some comments about the Chiefs in the offseason. Kansas City's not going to let them forget. Like, to me, this is either going to be a close game where Vegas covers, or it's going to be a complete Kansas City wipeout by the end of the first half. I'm going to pick Kansas City to win. I think the latter is more than likely true than the former. But again, I'm just going to stay away from the bet on this one. Bo Nix and the Broncos. I mean, they're going to beat the Panthers. Um, this is just going to be one ugly football game. 8.5. I feel inclined to probably take it, though. Again, I'm gonna stay away, just because I think there's better games on the board that I like. But this is another situation where Denver's defense. This is not even gonna be about Sean Payton and Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton and that Denver offense. This is gonna be about Vance Joseph and that Broncos defense just derailing that Carolina offense. Would not be surprised if Deontay Johnson is on the move here relatively quickly. One of the trickiest games of the weekend. Buffalo going to Seattle. Now, you guys know, again, my general rule has been during the past couple of weeks, whoever has the better quarterback is going to win the game. This week, we have some toss ups. Stafford against Sam Darnold. This year's been a toss up. Jalen Hurts against Joe Burrow. This year's been a toss up. Obviously, you'll take Lamar over Jameis. You'll take Aaron over Drake May. I would take Iowa over Tua right now just because I don't know Tua's health situation. CJ Stroud over Anthony Richardson, Jared Goff over Mason Rudolph, Jordan Love over Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins over Baker Mayfield is essentially a tie, though I'll take Kirk because of the weapons he has. Justin Herbert over Spencer Rattler, Mahomes over Gardner Minshew, and then obviously Bo Nix over Andy Dalton. I would take Josh Allen over Geno Smith, which is why I'm going to take Buffalo to win this game. But going to Seattle, we know that is one of the hardest places to play in the National Football League, no matter if the Seahawks are good or bad. But we saw the Seattle team also lose at home to a New York Giants team. Again, whether that's the Detroit Lions syndrome or not, I don't know, but that is the bottom line to me. Buffalo, they played bad in the first half against Tennessee, right? They did not put them away. They've been slow starters this year, and that's why I kind of hesitate because I don't think you can be a slow starter against Seattle. Geno Smith played incredible last week against Atlanta. I got to give it to him. Again, the Seals are a weird team where they have defensive minded coaches, and most of their talent, to be honest with you, is on the offensive side of the ball. Gino, DK, Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett. Their offensive line is getting better. I just don't know if, Mike McDonald's defense is going to be able to stop Josh Allen. This could be a huge James Cook game. Did not get involved a lot in the first half. I think he does again here. I think that James Cook, they feed him the ball more. Amari Cooper gets more comfortable in the offense. I like Buffalo here. Okay, Chicago at Washington. This was the big game that got flexed from the 1 o'clock spot to the 4:25 spot. Caleb Williams, we know, will play for Chicago. Jaden Daniels is very questionable up in the air with that rib injury for the Commanders, who the Commanders, they are one of the most dominating teams. I know they played the Panthers last week and it inflated their numbers, but you look at that team, the Commanders are scoring at will on everybody. Now, I will say this. I think outside of Tampa Bay, Chicago is the best defense they will play all season long. Even with Jaden Daniels out there, we know Jaden Daniels' frame. It was his one concern in college was his size and his ability to get injured. Matt Eberflus, I think, will come after him. I think the Bears are starting to gain momentum. They're also coming off a bye, so I expect Shane Waldron to have some wrinkles in there for Caleb Williams. I don't think the Commanders' secondary is any good. I think DJ Moore, maybe Roma Dunze gets going. They're starting to use Cole Kmet more in the passing game. DeAndre Swift is actually starting to get used in the running game. Chicago is hot right now. They've gotten better every single week offensively. I don't care if Jane Daniels is playing or not. The Bears, in my opinion, they're favored by 1.5 for a reason. On the road in Washington tells you Vegas thinks they are the better football team. I like Chicago here. I'm betting them minus 1.5 against the Commanders. Then I don't care if Ayuk is out for the year with a torn ACL and MCL. Debo Samuel will probably be back for San Francisco. I don't even know if they need him for this game. Um, I do think that, San Francisco just dominates Dallas. And I don't care in this situation that Dallas is coming off a bye. I don't think they're tough. I don't think they're physical. I think the Niners go in there, George Kittle, and they know they own Dallas. They're confident in their ability that they own Dallas. It's the opposite of Kansas City. They know they can't beat Kansas City. They know they can run over Dallas just in physicality. And they know in that division, especially if Arizona does beat Miami and the Rams do beat Minnesota, the way I predict. And what if Seattle does beat Buffalo? There is pressure there on San Francisco because if they don't win the division, especially in the NFC, where you got, the entire NFC North who has a legitimate say to make the playoffs. The loser of the Tampa Bay Atlanta game, has a legitimate chance. The non-winner of the NFC East between Philly and Washington will have a say in the playoff picture. So there's a lot of pressure, in my opinion, on San Francisco to win this game, more so than Dallas, who again did not predict to be a playoff team at the start of this year. I'm looking more and more right on that. I think the Niners blow them out on Sunday night, minus 4.5. So we talk about the rule of teams that get embarrassed the previous week, especially now they're going on prime time. They're gonna play well. And the Jets were a 15-3 on Pittsburgh early, and if it wasn't for those two interceptions, which both were incredible plays by the Steelers, maybe they don't blow out the Jets. I got to give Russell Wilson credit. He did throw some incredible deep balls to George Pickens. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I have that much confidence in this Steeler offense that it's going to be that much significantly better than it was a year ago. So this is a weird game. I think Pittsburgh wins. This may be Daniel Jones' last ever start as a member of the New York Giants. Though I will say, Daniel Jones has been better on the road this year than he has been at home. But again, I think TJ Watt just destroys that Giants offensive line, which Philadelphia got after him more than 7 times in week 7. I think Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Heinz Smith, Steelers defensive line has a big day here. Pittsburgh wins Monday night. So to recap, my week 8 money line picks, I have Minnesota losing to the Rams at home. I have Philadelphia over Cincinnati. I have Baltimore over Cleveland, Jets over New England, Arizona over Miami, Houston over Indy, Detroit over Tennessee, Green Bay over Jacksonville, Atlanta over Tampa, Chargers over New Orleans, Kansas City over Vegas, Denver over Carolina, Buffalo over Seattle, Chicago over Washington. I do have Dallas falling to San Francisco, and I do have Pittsburgh knocking off the Giants on Monday Night Football. With that in mind, here are my Week 8 2024 NFL best bets. I do have the Rams +3. I'm taking the points. I think they win outright Thursday night against the Minnesota Vikings. I have the Detroit Lions. I think that they win and they cover. They dominate here. This is a smash spot. I know it's a big line, but I'm taking them against their opponent, 10.5 against Tennessee. Meanwhile, I have Green Bay. I think they cover the 4.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll take Chicago on the road. They weigh 1.5 in Washington against the Commanders. And another smash spot here. I think San Francisco easily covers at home Sunday night, -4.5 against Dak Prescott and the boys, even with Dallas coming off their bye. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.